I chose to interview Iris Lazor, who is a preschool special education teacher at my school. And she has been a preschool special education teacher almost her entire life. Iris has superior commitment to her students, to our profession, and to our local school. She is a remarkable teacher and a true role model to me. When did you know you wanted to be a teacher?
Okay, well, when I was growing up, and we used to spend a lot of time at my grandparents' house, and right next door, neighbor, they had a Down's daughter, and so we used to play together, do things together, and then so kind of noticed that, she was a little bit slower, needed a little bit more help, stuff like that. So that's when I first. How old was I? I guess I was about 5th grade.
Yeah.
When I first decided, well, maybe, I like to help kids like that.
Yeah.
But then in college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, whether go into education or another field. But then in college, you had to take a course and you had to do volunteer work. So I decided to volunteer at a school in Waikiki called Jefferson Elementary. But way back then, in those days, they had a special ed section of the school. And it was mostly kids with orthopedic handicaps, So I volunteered there with a teacher and worked with those kids. And they were mainly preschool, kindergarten, 1st grade age. And I just loved it so much, That's when I decided, okay, I want to do special ed. I want to work in that field.
Yeah.
So that's when, and because she was such a good mentor to me. And then, so I decided, this is what I want to do. So then I started pursuing that field of work.
During college.
So
cool. And you already talked about this a little bit, but is that what brought you to preschool? When you started working, did you start in pre-K?
Yes, actually in our program, when we were at the University of Hawaii in the special ed master's program, you could go in those days you could pick your field. Do you want to go preschool? Do you want to go, fully self-contained? Do you want to go autism, whatever route? So since I had an early childhood degree, in regular elementary, early childhood, and then elementary degree, I said, well, preschool seems cool. Because that's a really good age. They come uninhibited, and you can kind of mold them, and so
That's
So I did a lot of. So I did my practice teaching and observation in a preschool setting.
Neat. Very cool. And then when did you initially begin working with military population?
Let's see, when did I come here? 1996.
Okay.
Yeah, I came to Mokulele.
And why did you decide to begin working with the military?
With the military? Well, I really, it was kind of a selfish reason because it was closer. It was an opening at the school, and it was closer to home. I didn't have to drive as far. And then when I came and I interviewed for the position, the principal and vice principal, they seemed like, very open to special ed, kind of like knowledgeable about special ed. Some administrators have no clue, but, they seemed very supportive, and so I decided, well, I guess I'll try, if I get hired, I'll try this school out.
Very neat,
But, over the years, I think just serving, being able to help educate military children seemed like, just a privilege because of what the parents do for us and everything. So I think I've come to appreciate it more now than when I first started out.
You've been working with preschool students since you got out of high school, so for your whole career, essentially, in education.
Couple years I did regular ed just to make sure I have a perspective.
Exactly.
Because you kind of lose perspective, right? What is average or normal and stuff. So I did about 3 years in 1st grade.
Okay.
Which was good, and I also did resource rooms to kind of get a gist of how that works and everything. But decided, no, I'd rather
Yeah.
just do preschool.
Really neat. Yeah. And what makes preschool the perfect fit for you? Why do you think it's
Because, well, for me, because I feel that they're like sponges, you know, they can absorb so many things you can teach them. They're so open, and, you know, it's like, I don't know, and they're so loving.
Yeah.
And you can just work with them in anything, and anything you do, they appreciate.
Yeah.
You know, they get so excited and just jump in there.
Yeah.
And they're just the perfect age.
They really do appreciate everything that you do, and just
Yeah, and they don't have any inhibitions either.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they'll act silly. You
Yeah,
know, they don't just go, I don't want to do this. You don't have that.
Yeah.
They don't have any attitude yet.
Right, right,
You know?
and they're not really self-conscious.
Yeah,
or anything
they're
like
not.
That.
They're like, oh, okay, you're gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it, kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
that's why I
Yeah.
like it.
yeah, it's so neat. So, looking back on all of your experience, how do you think your teaching philosophy, or what do you think it is today?
Yeah, it's changed.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, you know, in teaching education or preschool SPED, you know, in those days everything was separate. Okay, you taught math, you taught, you know, fine motor skills, you taught gross motor skills, and you know, you taught social skills and all that. Everything was separate, and then you did everything separately, you know. But then over the years, it's evolved. So now it's more integrated.
Yeah.
And I like that because,
Yeah.
you know, that's how we should teach, integrate all the subject areas. And I think it helps the kids grow more. You know, before it was like all teacher directed, and now I'm trying to engage the kids more into the learning.
Right.
You know, back then the teacher was the teacher, and the teacher, you know, did this, and kids had to, you know, follow the teacher and stuff. But now it's like, you know, kids can contribute more, and you know, just be more involved in their own learning, rather than teacher directed,
So
more,
true.
you know, teacher and student directed.
Yes.
Because at preschool you still need teacher direction.
Right, right.
Can't let them just go off on their own.
Yeah. But it is really cool watching you like guide them, model, and then guide them into kind of independent skill practice.
Because that's the goal.
Right, right, exactly. So I thought that was so neat. So in your classroom today, how do you meet the needs of all your students, different abilities and all?
You know, that's a big one in preschool, because you have you have preschoolers, they're 3, 4, or 5 years old, and there's big, you know, gaps in every age level. And then they come with varying handicaps also.
Right.
You know, so you have the high functioning autistic kids, the low functioning, everybody else, you know, in their own area and stuff. So it's a lot of differentiation. You know, I mean, you could be doing a group lesson on the subject, but then you'd have to, you know, differentiate for, especially the autistic kids, their attention span, what they can do, and stuff like that. So you got to think ahead, and you know, come up with ideas. And plan really well before you do any kind of lesson, so that nobody's really not engaged, that they're all engaged.
Yes.
Yeah, not kind of like, you know, in la la land, or bored, or you know, it's too high or too low.
Exactly. Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
And have you ever had a student or students that were that you remember were particularly difficult to reach and meet their needs, and what did you do?
Yes, our first year here, you know, I was in preschool setting, not military. So, and then, you know, I had my challenges there. And then I came here, and then my first year here, I had students that were ADHD and ODD. You know, I had one that was emotionally handicapped, and, you know, kids without speech. And I had a parent come and tell me this first, you know, before school started, she goes, you know, my son is a handful, so you really have to be firm with him, you know. And I'm like, okay, I think, you know, I'm firm anyway, so. But boy, once that first couple months of school that year, I thought, why did I come here?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Why did I change schools? Because
Yeah.
it was so hard with, I mean, the emotionally disturbed kid would like just tantrum
Yeah.
for like 30 to 40
Yeah.
minutes almost every day. He ran once to his house that was just a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
So I had to go get him. My aide didn't want to go because she didn't feel like, the student would listen to her. And so I kind of had to take a deep breath and evaluate, evaluate what was going on, kind of sit back and look at the situation, kind of collaborate with other SPED teachers. Okay, this is how it is. Do you have any ideas how I can, handle this or make the situation better or make it work better? And I think that helped a lot too, just us helping each other out.
Yeah.
And then of course, just sitting back and, looking at it and saying, okay, what were their triggers? What could I have done better? The way I handled it, maybe that wasn't the best way.
Yeah.
So next time, maybe I'll try this. So it was a lot of trial and error. It's got to be a lot of trial and error. And sometimes it'll work for a while and then it won't. And then you have to go find, well, what can work next?
Yeah.
And it never stays the same the whole time.
Yes.
You always have to change it.
Yeah.
You always have to think, and you always, it's good to bounce off ideas out of your colleagues, stuff like that, or get district come in and okay, can you kind of observe from a neutral point of view and tell me what you see going on?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
That's so true. In talking more about collaboration, how do you specifically collaborate with other preschool teachers, like with Julia or with teachers in the complex or in the state and things like that?
Well, you got to get to know the person better first. So I didn't really know Julia when she first started preschool. So we kind of did our own thing.
Right.
But then once we started talking together, and getting to know each other better, seeing what her teaching style was and stuff like that, then we started talking more, and just bouncing off ideas of each other. She would come and ask me for help because she was having, this kind of situation in her classroom, or, just how to set up her classroom. Yeah. And then, so now we've gotten to the point where we're comfortable switching classes. You know? Her class comes in here for a subject that I like to teach, my strength, and then my class goes into her classroom for a subject that she's strong in.
Yeah. First few years of teaching, was there another teacher in the same position?
No.
That you were in?
My first year of teaching was another island.
Okay.
So it was on Molokai. Molokai is a very tiny and very, not that many people on the island.
Yeah.
So, they had our school was in town. So no, there was just, one preschool and one preschool teacher. There were other SPED teachers, like research room teacher. And so, no, I mean, I think that was the biggest eye-opener, was going there, because I'm a brand new teacher out of college. That's my first teaching job. So I go in there and then, I look at the classroom. It's a huge classroom.
Yeah.
I'm happy it has, bathrooms inside the room. I don't have to go out. But I look in the classroom and there's like one shelf, one round table, maybe about 5 chairs. And that's it. There's no other, maybe there's like a little bit of art supplies, but that was it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I can't go running to there's no like teacher store in the island, right? So that was hard. So I had to kind of like,
challenging.
for at least until I could get back to Honolulu to go shopping and whatever, you kind of had to, think on the spot, be creative, whatever.
Be creative.
There was nobody.
Yeah.
And I think out of all the 1, 2, 3, 4 elementary schools on the island, the only preschool class was the one I was in.
What is the most important part of collaboration in your opinion?
I think just being consistently meeting, and I think if you can do that, I would want it every week. You know.
And in your experience, how have you learned to build rapport with parents?
Yeah, I'm
of
not.
students.
Yeah, because I'm not one to do that very well. You know, I'm not like one of those extroverts that will talk to parents and blah, 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 blah. Unless they need answers or something, but and that's how it was when I started out. But, as the years progressed, not all relationships. I mean, most of my relationships with parents were really good. I mean, they were really nice, supportive. I've had a couple that were like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just now am more, I guess, open. I'll ask them more often. Do you think, how do you think your child's doing?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Do you need any help in certain areas? We send home now a communication book, the Avid Binder, so they know what's going on in school and they can talk with their kids at home.
Yeah.
And so they're kept abreast about what's happening, if they read it, or it depends if they read it or not.
Yeah.
But then we do more parent activities too. Having parents come in the classroom and seeing how their child interacts with their peers, and the kids. It's good for the kids too because they can see their parents, at school and just letting loose, playing games with them, or doing an activity and stuff like that. So parents kind of feel more comfortable in the classroom, and they kind of get to see the classroom.
Thinking back to instruction, are there any types of evidence-based or instructional practices you like to use on a regular basis?
What I like to do all the time is, just have every mode of learning available. So we'll do auditory, visual, kinesthetic, tactile, tasting, just hitting all the senses. I think that's what we like to do in preschool a lot, because everybody's a different learner, and you get them more engaged when you do more modes of learning.
Is there anything that you've ever tried, like instructional practices, that you don't use anymore, that didn't work, or you didn't like how it worked with your students?
Yeah, mostly, when we're having, you can't always do one-to-one. I like doing one-to-one.
Yeah.
I mean, they're more attentive one-to-one.
Yeah.
But in group time, it's just, like I said before, it's just like if I'm sitting there and I'm doing all the teaching and they're just listening, I don't do that anymore.
Right.
That doesn't work. That they get bored. You notice they're not listening, or they're fidgeting around and stuff like that. So just teacher talking.
What types of behavioral strategies do you like to use most?
Well, first of all, we like to use modeling, and then social stories help a lot. We just like to do a lot of positive reinforcement.
Yeah, definitely. If you think back to, I guess, like before, a student with specific like behavioral challenges, what did you do to find the best strategy to help him or her?
A lot of trials.
Oh yeah.
Trying one thing, okay, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try something else. I would look online, for resources, anything that could help me online that I would read.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look this up. Okay, what suggestions do you have? Or go to workshops, like they'd have some, how to manage a difficult child workshop, kind of stuff like that. Sign up for workshops, get ideas from there. So, just a lot of research and trial and error.
How do you continue to grow and learn more about preschool or special education, even as you've had lots of experience in your career?
Well, it's constantly changing.
Right,
so
right.
You have to keep up. And I like, when we, like I said, when we have workshops available, that's great. Like they had this autism workshop, I thought that was very valuable. Just and then again, just meeting
Yeah.
with, not only preschool teachers, but other teachers as well. When I first started teaching, nobody heard of autism.
Right.
Autism wasn't even, a disability back then.
Right.
I never heard of it.
Yeah.
And now it's the most prevalent one in all.
If you think back to a time in your career that was really challenging, not necessarily because of a particular student, what did you do to persevere through that challenging time, and how did it shape you to become a better teacher?
I think, people who know me well say I'm very stubborn. So I don't like to just give up. So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to see it, to the end.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of helps me, with challenging situations.
Yeah. Just looking back, maybe it was with your teacher that you worked with in Honolulu, or someone else. What is the best teaching advice you ever received?
Look at each child as an individual. Always look at their strengths first.
Yeah.
And try to build upon that. And then, then you can kind of look at their needs or their weaknesses and try to improve upon that too.
Yeah.
But also to get to know the child, and then, I know there's that book, I don't know if you read it, but about the 5 love. You ever heard of that? 5 love languages?
Yeah, I have.
So,
I've never
I
read
kind
it.
of try to look at each child and figure out, okay,
yeah.
and some of them you can tell right away.
Yeah.
Is it physical, like they
Yeah.
like to hug and sit on your lap,
Yeah.
or hold your hand.
Yeah.
Or some of them, they're like praising. Every time you say something, a praise, they're like, oh, happy and stuff like that. Yeah.
So true.
Just to treat each child individually.
Yes.
And see them.
Yeah.
I think I appreciate that more in my, these senior years of teaching than the beginning. Beginning was like, I'm a brand new teacher. I don't know what I'm doing, and this is the way I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But then now it's kind of like, oh yeah, I think I don't know. I like it better now than I did when I first started out.
Now, like you said, and as your career has gone on, would you give the same advice to a new teacher, or is there something that you would add to your best advice, I guess, for a teacher?
Well, I'd say the same thing, but I would say don't take everything personally.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, if you took everything personally, you feel so defeated.
Yeah.
And I know some teachers who did that, and they would be crying, oh, I'm not a good teacher, the day didn't go well, everything went wrong.
Yeah.
All this kind of stuff. And so it's kind of like, well, don't take things personally. It's not your fault, everything didn't go right that day or whatever.
Yeah.
Every day's going to be different, every day's a new day. You just got to start over again, and sometimes you just grit your teeth.
Yes, so true. And then my final question for you is, what have you found to be the most rewarding part of teaching?
Just seeing the children progress.
Yeah.
And then not only seeing them progress, but seeing the looks on their faces that they can do it.
Yes.
I can do it, or just seeing the growth. From like some kids, they come in and they don't even have any kind of speech or anything. You don't understand a word they're saying. And then, now you say, oh, wow, you're talking in short sentences and I can understand you. And I just like seeing, and that's why I like preschool, because they're here not just for a year.
Right.
They're here, they could be here 3 years, And you look at pictures and you look, at assessments from when they first came in to like, after a period of a year or 2 or 3, and then you go, wow. They really grew.
How much they grew.
So that's why I like it. You can really see the growth.
In concluding, thinking about what I talked about with Iris and what I've learned in this course. Well, with Iris, we talked a lot about collaboration throughout the interview, and I learned that it's so important to collaborate with other teachers and parents and help students collaborate themselves. I was shocked when Iris told me that she was all alone on an island with no other teachers that had the same exact job as she did. That would terrify me. I was so lucky to have support my very first year of teaching, and I don't know what I would have done if it was just me and all the decisions were up to me, let alone not having any furniture in the classroom, pretty much. Another thing that I learned from Iris and really thought back to this course was time changes so many things. The special education laws have changed throughout the past few decades, and Iris has been teaching in all of those. So it was so interesting to hear how, when she was student teaching, special education was completely different than what is now. The students were in a separate wing of their school, and now students are integrated and mainstreamed into the general education classrooms, which is exciting to see how far our federal government has pushed the educational laws to make sure that there is no segregation and there is equality for all, despite our abilities. Another thing that I thought about during my interview with Iris and reviewing the interview and the video is how much our children need us to tune into their specific needs, and how, as teachers, we need to plan our lessons around all of those needs and try to help students learn by drawing on their strengths. So not focusing on their disability or their needs as much as we focus on their strengths. And finally, I loved how Iris would give the advice and got the advice to look at each child individually. And I loved how she compared the book 5 Love Languages to our profession in education. And I really am going to challenge myself to apply that same thinking when working with children. What love language do they possess, and how can I meet that through my teaching? So
I used to think I wanted to be famous, that I'd be recognized out in a crowd. But the funny thing is, any time I've gotten what I want, it lets me down. But now I just wanna look more like love. I just wanna look more like love. This whole world is spinning crazy, and I can't quite keep up. It's the one thing around here that we don't have quite enough of. So I just wanna look a little more like love. I used to think I needed all the answers. I used to need to know that I was right. I used to be afraid of things I couldn't cover up in black and white. But now I just wanna look more like love. I just wanna look more like love. This whole world is spinning crazy, I can't quite keep up. It's the one thing around here that we don't have quite enough of. So I just wanna look a little more like love. I find the farther that I climb, there's always another line, a mountaintop. what I want will never be enough. So I just wanna look more like love. I just wanna look more like love. 'Cause this whole world is spinning crazy, I can't quite keep up. It's the one thing around here that we don't have quite enough of. So I just wanna look a little more like love. Like love.